Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Today I want to talk about how you can start your new year like a program manager or even a project manager for that matter. Now, for those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, you know I talk about contracting, portfolio careers, and also life management. But today I want to really sort of like hone down in some of the things that a project or program manager would do, especially moving into a new year or starting a new goal, whatever it may be. Now, you don't have to do this at the beginning of the year. You don't have to do this at the beginning of your birthday or whatever it may be as your personal new year. But if you feel like you've got something you need to start in your personal life, then this could be an approach that you take. Now, again, as a coach, as a contractor, as a program manager, there are certain things that I've been able to utilize in order to manage the delivery of projects or programs, both in my personal life and in professional life as well. So when thinking about any sort of program or project, there's usually 4 or 5 different stages, okay? So the first one is really around initiation or scoping. So essentially what this is, it's trying to get a gauge of what should be included in this specific program or project and how you can make sure it's aligned to strategic thinking, okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is making sure that you start to develop a plan. Okay, so this plan needs to be detailed enough to understand what activities are required for you to be effective in your delivery. The third thing is implementation, okay, or delivery. And essentially, these are different steps that you need to take in order for you to, again, ensure that you reach the aims and objectives of your chosen goal. And the next stage from that is evaluation and monitoring, which is part of delivery, you could argue. But finally, we have close or transition or moving on, whatever you want to call it. And this is where things really pipe down or you maintain things and move it into a business as usual rhythm. So let's think about this. Now, let's first start off about thinking about the strategic objectives or the strategy. Now, a lot of people want to just go off and pick a goal and even develop a system around it. And that's that. You've heard people say, don't, plan goals or don't create goals, create systems, which yes, there's a lot of truth in that stuff, but all of that is useless without strategy. It all starts with strategy. Now, what is strategy? A strategy is the approach you take in order for you to express value. Now, if we break down what value is deemed as a thing that is important to you specifically. And so it's very important for you to determine what strategy you're trying to focus on. Now, if we're thinking about our personal lives, I'm sure you guys have heard of the Wheel of Life. I talk about the 4 pillars of mastery, which is progress, performance, personal, and people. But really, these are different areas in your life that help you understand where you're going. So the first thing I'll say with any strategy, especially in your personal life, is to really identify what is the problem that you're trying to achieve. Forget vision, forget all of this kind of stuff here. What's the problem that you're trying to really overcome? What are the challenges in your life? So typically what you may do is do some sort of diagnostic gap analysis, okay? You look at your life and you say, hey, I don't like this area. I don't like this area. I don't like this area. I don't like this area because of this, that, and that. I'm going to score this a 5 out of 10 because of this. And this is what I'm feeling because of that. And so these are the questions that you're really asking yourself. So once you've done that diagnostic breakdown, you have a strong idea of what you need to focus on. Maybe you want to improve your health. Maybe you want to improve your business. Maybe you want to transition into a new career. Maybe you want to form deeper relationships with individuals. All of these things can be measured based on a report back on your experiences throughout the last year. So once you've been able to do that, you have to think to yourself, how do I want to feel? What is this telling me about what's important to me? What could I have done better, etc., etc. You're starting to unearth values or not necessarily principles, but things that will help you make decisions moving forward. Because if you think about any company, especially with organizations that I've worked with, the strategy has to have some sort of values that they have, that they work to, because it exudes behaviors that they stick to. Because again, those different values exude behaviors that mean activity when it comes to the bottom line, etc., etc. So it's important for you to establish values from that. So start thinking, what does this mean in terms of how I need to be? Do I need to be more integral? Do I need to have a better sense of truth? Do I need to have more respect? Whatever it may be. So work out that stuff. So once you have a strategic sort of like feel for it, what you want to start doing is casting a vision Again, like I said, your values and your velocity, how quickly you want to move. I got this from the book Portfolio Life. Now, your vision needs to be clear. It needs to be measurable. It needs to be inspiring. It needs to be concise. It needs to have an idea of where you want to go and how far you want to go. Okay. So with this in mind, sit down and think about a vision that makes sense for the thing that you're trying to achieve in your personal life. Now, you can make it specific to, let's say, for example, business or health, or whatever it may be, but have a few sentences that makes it very, very specific. Now, of course, you can use things like ChatGPT to help you out, but it won't give you a vision that makes sense for you. You're going to have to iterate this stuff. You may want to sit down with someone else and just say, hey, how does this sound to you? Does this feel right? But ultimately it needs to feel right for you. So you've got your vision there. You've got your values that you've unearthed from really looking at different areas of your life. And then after that, what you're going to do is determine how quickly you want to move. Okay. Do you want to do this in a year? Do you want to do this in 2 years? It doesn't matter whether you hit it or you don't. You need to give yourself a bit of a chance. Okay. And so you've got those strategic objectives now. So once that's been done and all of that kind of stuff there, you may want to, okay, if you're thinking about organizations, you usually talk to the sponsors of the portfolio who are responsible for an area like operations or whatever it may be, needs to give you the green light, okay? And this person may be your mother, your father, your spouse, your siblings, certain friends, whatever it may be, to endorse what you're trying to do, okay? To endorse what you're trying to do. And so if there's a good feeling about this and they're like, yeah, this makes sense for you, Mike, this makes sense for you, Sarah, whatever it may be, then go ahead and start making plans towards all of that stuff. So remember when we spoke about that initial part where we looked at different areas of our lives and we chose one area and we're like, okay, cool, this is what I want to focus on. What you want to do now is develop a quick sort of like plan, okay? Quick plan, nothing too heavy up in here. So essentially you want to highlight, okay, what is it that you're trying to do? Any key objectives. So let's say, for example, you're trying to lose weight. Okay. I want to make sure that I feel healthier. I want to make sure that I'm 75 kg. I want to ensure that I have at least 12% body fat. I want to be able to lift 100 kg when it comes to, I don't know, dumbbell curls or whatever it may be. I'm just making this up. And so you have some targets that you're working towards. Notice that all of these have some sort of qualitative measure and some sort of quantitative measure. Really important stuff there. So what you're doing is you're highlighting, again, the top line sort of objectives. Then what you want to do is highlight what's in scope and what's out of scope. So what is in scope? What is in scope is making sure that you buy healthy foods, that you ensure that you cook on time, okay? That you have at least 2 meals a day. Maybe you want to do intermittent fasting. What's outside of scope is Deliveroo, okay? Or it may be, I don't know, going on lavish nights out and drinking loads of alcohol. Maybe these things are out of scope. So you're declaring this to yourself. And also you want to make sure that you have an idea of what are your key deliverables or milestones. So maybe in the next 3 months, you want to make sure that you lose at least 10 kg, okay? Maybe the 3 months after that, you want to make sure that you're able to jog at least for 10 minutes on the treadmill at level 12, as an example. So these are key things that you start to point out. You're not going to get this right straight away. You're definitely not going to get this right straight away, but you need to start getting an idea of that stuff. Then what you want to do, again, you may not know who it is, but you want to highlight people who may help you. So maybe your spouse is going to help you, slapping your wrist and saying, hey, don't eat that, Snicker bar. It's not going to help you. Or maybe you're going to get a personal trainer who's going to support you on this stuff. So all of these things you're starting to highlight and framework stuff around so you get an idea. This is what you're trying to do. Because again, the next stage from that is you're going to do a bit of research. You're going to do a bit of research. You're going to talk to different people. You're going to try and understand what it is that you actually have to do. Now, of course, the thing that I spoke about before in the project or the program world, that's essentially a program project charter. Okay. This is really giving you sort of like high level idea of what you're aiming to achieve. And you may include sort of high level benefits as well. So for example, you're going to feel fitter, you're going to feel more confident, you're going to feel sexy, you're going to be able to fit into clothes that you haven't been able to fit into for a while. These are strong benefits because they create a certain feeling as a result of that change. Okay. So this is known as a project charter. So when we're moving out of this space, we're now moving into a space of being clear about what is the sort of like schedule of works. Now, I'm not saying you necessarily have to, create some crazy plan or whatever it may be. You may do it in one of two ways. The first way is where you may develop a sort of plan from month 1 to month 6. Okay, it's very simple. It's get these things and talk to this person, hire this coach, go to the gym, every whatever. It may be as simple as setting it up in your calendar. Maybe. But if you're getting to things like a business save, for example, you need a bit of rigor because there are a set of principles that you should abide by when it comes to the laws of business. The other way of doing it is making sure that you develop a plan week by week. And what I mean by week is not writing it in advance, but literally sitting down, let's say, for example, every Sunday and saying, hey, this is what I've done on Sunday. This is what I aim to do moving forward. So the project charter aims or acts as a way for you to sort of like have something to lean on when it comes to developing your week by week plan. So hopefully that makes sense and that gives you a bit of an idea. So once you've done that, okay, you've got all of that stuff in place. Again, you're just assessing everything and making sure that everything is on point. Now, I spoke about a work breakdown structure. That's just a fancy term of saying or basically breaking down the different activities that you need to do sequentially. You just need to have that in mind, okay? So we've got all of this stuff in place. We're feeling a bit more confident. We've done our research, okay? And that research is based on maybe papers we've read, people or experts that we spoke to, people who've done well or haven't done well within these areas, videos that you've watched, books potentially that you've read. You don't want to rush here. You want to do this properly. And this is the thing. Sometimes when we're setting a new goal based on a strategy, we want to sort of rush. We want to get it out straight away because of all of the highlight reels that we see online. The point being made here is that you can't rush this process. You just can't. You need to be in a position where actually you don't want to waste your time. You want to give yourself a good chance in order for you to start properly. Now, the flip side of that is that some people may say, just get started and you can work it on the way. That is also true, but it comes down to the type of person that you are. So you have to have an inclination or understanding of what works better for you. So once we've moved out of this space and we have a clear idea of what the strategy is, so we know what our approach is, we know our vision, values, and velocity. Number 2, we have a high level agreement from those people who love us and basically say, you have a mandate to go ahead and do this. We have a clear idea of what's in scope and out of scope and what the high level plan looks like. And we've developed an in-depth plan based on breaking down each activity and thinking about what needs to be done. So the next step from that now is, okay, we're kind of out of planning and all of that stuff there. I need to start making this a thing. Now, before I do that though, what are the things that are going to make this work? Now, you could argue the planning did that for you, but I like to think of schemes. Okay, I've spoken about this so many times. What space do I need? What cash or money do I need? What helpers and or people do I need? What equipment do I need? What materials do I need? What expertise do I need? And what systems do I need? These operational blocks are going to be very important because there is the plan, but there's also the system that needs to be set up around that plan. Okay, where your routines and eventual habits will come into play. So you need to start designing this in such a way where actually you need to have an idea of how this is going to work. Now, you could sort of like just sit down behind the screen and start, typing away and writing this plan or whatever it may be. But the flip side of it is I actually need to start to see where I'm going. And, I think this high level plan is enough for me to understand. And this is if it's just you. This is typically if it's just for you. Obviously, within the project world, it'll be slightly different. But this is if it's just for you. And so when you try things out, you have a better idea of how much things cost, how much time is required, all of this kind of stuff there. Because what you're then going to do is move into the whole delivery phase or implementation phase, and you're going to start essentially making sure that things get done. And this is where you start to put in certain structures. Number 1, based on what you've written down in terms of your plan, you're going to put in calendar invites to yourself or with other individuals that remind you of what you need to do. And it may have detail behind those different calendar invites that explain what needs to be done. The other thing that you're going to do is you're going to have sit down meetings with an accountability buddy, a mentor or coach or whatever it may be to review progress week by week. because you need a way to keep you driven. Okay. And if you don't have any of those people, you need to have those sessions with yourself where you're tracking metrics. Okay. So if it is weight loss, you're tracking weight. If it is business, you're tracking, maybe it is social activity, leads, or sales, or maybe it is customer satisfaction scores, as an example. If it's relationship, maybe it's the number of dates you go on, or the number of times your partner said, I love you, as an example. It can't be forced, obviously, it needs to be natural, but these are little things that you can do. Okay, so you need to measure the metrics to see what performance looks like over time, so you have a clear idea of what's working. So once you're doing all this stuff, over time, you can make different tweaks and pivots to the plan so that it's more likely going to work out. Now, of course, you can keep on doing this, keep on doing this, keep on doing this. But again, like within the program world, you usually have some sort of board meeting that happens either on a monthly basis and or a quarterly basis, where it's a complete review, okay, an understanding of where we at right now, what's happening, what needs to change, what needs to be escalated, what needs to be deprioritized, etc., etc. You have to have the honest conversation with yourself. Now, what I haven't spoken about, which is really big to the whole program world, and I've just spoken about governance and meetings, by the way, but from a personal standpoint, is risks. It's important, at least in the planning phase, when you did all of that breakdown structure and all that kind of stuff there, that you highlight what you believe are the risks to all of this. Maybe there's a risk, again, if you're losing weight, that you could re-download Deliveroo and order McDonald's. Okay, because you can't stop thinking about that McFlurry and apple pie, you know? Or maybe from a risk standpoint, when it comes to business, your focus is on social media as opposed to income generating activities like cold calling, as an example, or maybe it is DMing people or whatever it may be. So you need to think to yourself, what are the key risks? And obviously, as time goes on, you may develop issues. So issues are things that have actually happened, okay? So maybe you actually did order delivery when you weren't supposed to, or maybe you did fully focus on social media activities, whereas a risk is something that hasn't happened but has a high likelihood of happening if it continues on a particular trajectory. So, and this is why you do all that stuff at the beginning, if you get what I'm saying, because if you don't know how the year has gone, if you don't have an alignment of your values, if you don't necessarily have a clear understanding of what the status quo was, then all of this stuff you're doing is a waste of time. So when people say, oh, plan goals or don't do goals, have systems, you may have a system that fails. What is the point? So this is why we need to do it this way. We've seen all these individuals online do an amazing job of talking about, at least from a business standpoint, how you can better think about, your offers, your leads, and all this kind of stuff there. But the reality is they're talking about strategy. Now, they're not talking about all of the strategy, but they're talking about strategy. That's what that is. Strategy is the approach that you take in order for you to express value. It's that simple. It's the approach. It's how you do things. It's the way you do things. The goal is the what. Okay? What is it that I'm doing? But when it comes to the delivery, when it comes to the system, when it comes to all of that stuff, that is the when, the who, all of that kind of stuff there. It's the process. You need all of these things to make it work. So now you've got a clear idea. You've got the strategy that's got all of those different bits in it. And of course, your strategy can be as big as it needs to be, but it just needs to make sense and you need to fully understand those elements. Okay. Strategy could include things like marketing, sales, market analysis, operations, risks and issues, stakeholders, blah, blah. It can include all of that stuff if you want it to. Or it can be as simple as that exercise that I spoke about at the beginning from a personal standpoint. Once you move on to there, you got that big tick of your mandate, and then you move on to developing some sort of charter that helps you understand what it is that you're trying to do. It's basically a high-level plan. Once that's all good, and you've checked that with your accountability buddy, your spouse, whoever it may be, okay? Because you need to have some sort of reference. Maybe you can use ChatGPT as your reference. Then you can start to develop a broken down plan. And once you have that broken down plan, whether you do that straight away or week by week, then you can start thinking about, okay, cool. I've got all this stuff in place. I know what my schemes are. This is what I'm going to do to implement. And this is why I started talking about the meetings and the cadence and all that kind of stuff there. That's your governance, really. That's making sure that you're accountable to something or someone. And you're checking and checking and checking and checking and checking to make sure things are on track. so that quarter one, quarter two, there is some sort of noticeable change, because you have to give yourself an opportunity. Now, of course, if you've reached your goal, okay, and they talk about this in Gestalt psychotherapy, when you've reached your goal, it starts to dissipate, or it starts to not have the same energy attached to it. So there has to be a level of maintenance. It has to become part of BAU, as they talk about within the whole project space, which means business as usual. How do you do this? Well, essentially, you need to think to yourself, amongst everything that I've done, what do I now need to get rid of? And what do I need to consistently maintain, so that there is not all this energy focused on this stuff and it's now become part of the lifestyle? Whereas in the program world, they call it becomes part of operations. So you need to be able to, number one, look at what you need to do to maintain that lifestyle. So maybe from a business standpoint, you need to have your VA, okay, as an example, or you need to ensure that you have someone who's doing sales for you to consistently have that goal that you're trying to achieve. Maybe from a weight loss standpoint, you need to consistently have that personal trainer, or you need to consistently do weigh-ins every day, as an example. Maybe when it comes to your relationship, you need to consistently have a date night on Fridays, or every 2 weeks, as an example, or consistently say I love you to the person that you're, I guess, living with, every single night. So these are different things that you need to do consistently to make sure that you stick to your goals. Then everything else, if need be, can fall off, but you can decide that. And so once that's happened, then you can sign things off and you can start the whole process again, but for something else, okay? But only if it's viable, only if you're at a point where you've given yourself enough buffer. Now, there's a lot of things I didn't speak about when it comes to, let's say, for example, stakeholders, okay? Who are the right people that you need to sort of converse with? Who are the right customers, providers, influencers, and governors? So, for example, a customer in this instance would be yourself, okay? Because you're trying to ensure that you're producing value for yourself. Obviously, from a business standpoint, it'd actually be customers or clients, but in this instance, it's you. When it comes to providers, you're also the provider, okay? But you may have someone helping you, such as a coach or whoever it may be. Somebody who is helping you produce the results that you're trying to produce. You've also got influencers. So these influencers are going to be your sponsors, your spouse, your mom, your dad, your siblings, your friends, whoever it may be, who actually, give you energy in a certain direction or polarize you to do certain things. And then you've got your governor. Your governors are the people who hold you to account. These may be similar to your influencers to a degree, but the people who hold you to account are usually the ones who love you the most, okay? Or are paid to do that, okay? So it's going to be one of those things. And so you have these people in place and you need a way to communicate with these different people so you're staying on track. So there's no visuals on this video. There's none of this stuff. It's just straight shooting and straight talking based on what I remember currently at the moment when it comes to just standard project methodology and how it can apply to your life. How this can apply to your life. I've done a video on this before when I think it's talking about, project management 101 or whatever it may be. You should check it out because, again, if you're in a project management space or even contracting space, it'd be a great video to check out, but even something to utilize for yourself. You can put that stuff into context based on what I was saying before. Anywho, hopefully this has given you some clear perspective and clear direction. If you're somebody who needs some level of performance coaching and you need someone to help you over a couple of weeks just to make sure that you are executing on your specific goals, maybe you're a leader, maybe you're a business owner, maybe you're some of these things, and you need that person who's got experience and can hold you to account for what you're trying to do, then hit me up. Hit me up, send me a message on LinkedIn DMs and we can have a conversation and we can see how we can benefit each other in making sure that you achieve your goals. Anyway, if you want to see more videos centered around portfolio careers, life management, and all of the above, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.